The Girl in the Lewandowsky Top by Tom Palmer, Chapter 4, Shelter. They met on the moor, an expanse of fields and rough ground on a hill above the town where Archie and Betsy lived, and now where Miroslava and Alican lived too. They were here because the night before at the barbecue, Archie's dad had promised Miroslava's brother that they could take Archie's dog Jim for a walk together. It was a bright midsummer morning, soft white clouds floating across a lovely blue sky. It felt warm and there was no breeze. Before long, Alican and Miroslava were running around with the dog throwing his ball, Jim tearing through the heather, emerging with dark, muddied legs and belly. Archie and Betsy joined in the game. The sound of Alican's laughter was too infectious not to. The Ukrainian boy, normally so quiet and controlled, but today, with the dog, he was different. Archie smiled at his dad, who was talking to Miroslava's and Betsy's mums. Dad smiled back. Then, feeling like today was a good day, Archie glanced down from the moor and at the skyline of the town. Not much more than a mile away, over undulating fields and farmhouses, a road running downhill into the town centre, like a river coming off the hills. Archie loved it up here. The feeling of being at the countryside, being so close to the town he had lived in all his life, where his family all lived, where he played football and went to school, and thinking about where he lived had shocked Archie's mind back suddenly to the photographs that Dad had shown him the night before. They'd been taken by a war photographer who posted on Facebook. Terrible images of Kharkiv, the town where Miroslava and Alican had come from. Now Archie wondered how he could have felt that today was a good day. Seeing his own town from high above reminded him of those bleak photographs of the towns in Ukraine that Dad had found for him. It was hard to get his head around the fact that what he saw now, his town, all quiet and safe, bathed in morning sun, was not that different from the shattered, smoking, devastated towns of Ukraine that he had seen online. And Archie knew that, a few weeks ago, his life and Miroslava's life had been exactly the same. She had had family and football and school like him, a town like his, but not now. The images he had seen came back to him. The block of flats with its side torn away, a picture still hanging on a wall. A woman standing in front of her house and garage, staring back at whoever was taking a photograph of her as the house behind her burned. A group of adults cooking food on a fire in the road outside their homes, their faces dirty and etched with exhaustion. Two girls, not much older than Betsy and Miroslava, cowering in a doorway, looking out of their unlit home, their eyes fearful. Was this what Miroslava had seen? Or was this what her parents had saved her from seeing? This was certainly why they had left their home to become refugees. Archie wanted to understand as much as he could how it felt to have your town torn to pieces, for it to be burning and smoking, to have no electricity, so you had to cook on the fire in the road outside. And then it occurred to him that was what they'd done the night before, eaten outside at a fire, the barbecue. He almost smiled at the comparison. At least it had been the same for them, he thought. But then he felt a pain in his stomach, an understanding. 3 families enjoying sausages and burgers in a back garden was not the same as being forced to eat in the street because your house is on fire, or there is no electricity to see inside the house or use your cooker or do anything you could normally do safely. That's why Miroslava and Alican's dad and mum had taken them away. That was why Archie had refugees in their school and in Betsy's home. Archie shook his head. He wished his school could take some more refugees from Ukraine, from anywhere. Who wouldn't want to offer their home to people who had lived the lives these people in the photographs were living now? It's a nice town, your town. Archie turned to see Miroslava standing beside him, still wearing a Robert Lewandowsky top, looking down into the valley. She'd made him jump. He wondered how long he had been staring at it, just thinking. He had overcome his shyness about how to speak to a refugee now that he knew Miroslava. It hadn't taken him long to realise she was just a girl, A normal girl who loved dogs and books and the things he liked that a 10-year-old anywhere in Europe would like. She was just like him. She had a mum and dad and a house and 3 cars, but a house that might not be there anymore. She'd gone to school and played football for a team, which wasn't there anymore. She had a dog, or she had had a dog. Still no one knew what had happened to their dog. But thinking about Miroslava's dog and seeing the photographs of what was happening in the town and witnessing a phone call from Miroslava's dad the night before had shocked Archie. Now he found it hard to speak to Miroslava again because he didn't know what to say, didn't know if he should say anything, and that felt bad, that there was a thing between them, especially as it was just him and her now. The others were way off and he had to say something. But what do you say to a refugee? And that's the end of chapter 4, and thank you very much for listening.